back. My apologies for the lack of an episode last week. I guess I should say I'm sorry. My wife always hates when I say my apologies. She says that's a lackluster way to apologize for anything. Just say I'm sorry. I like my apologies better. This is the Helliepod, not the Mrs. Helliepod. So I can say my apologies for no episode, but there was a good reason. We were on the road. Yes, for the first time ever, as things open up, the Helliepod hit the road. First to Florida, where we got a couple of great episodes that are on the horizon. And then to Nashville, Tennessee for our episode this week with Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. Vrabel, of course, took the Titans to the AFC Championship game in his second season at the helm, beating the Patriots in Foxborough and the Ravens in Baltimore. We are going to get into everything, including that now infamous FaceTime call with Tom Brady and Julian Edelman that stoked the flames of those rumors that had Tom Brady coming to Tennessee. How real was that? Eventually, they ended up signing Ryan Tannehill to a $118 million deal. I asked him, at what point did he know that Tannehill was going to be the guy? And what about Jadeveon Clowney? He's still out there as a free agent. Vrabel coached him with the Texans. Could he be a possibility in Tennessee with the Titans? And we get into his playing days. That's where so many good stories come from. Coming out of Ohio State as an All-American, Vrabel spent 4 years in Pittsburgh as a backup. Great story about Greg Lloyd and why he wouldn't talk to him for 3 months initially. And then he leaves Pittsburgh and goes to the Patriots, where he became a starter, won 3 Super Bowls. Tremendous stories about his teammates there. Willie McGinnis, his head coach, of course, Bill Belichick, and a remarkable story when they signed Rodney Harrison. And I'm just going to let you listen to that one because that might have been my favorite one from the podcast. Also, a special visit from his son, Tyler Vrabel, who burst into the room while we're doing the podcast. Tyler, of course, an outstanding left tackle for Boston College. He was a freshman All-American and honorable mention All-ACC player there last year. So I decided to put Coach on the spot and asked him if he would draft his son if he was on the Titans draft board in the exact same spot as an equivalent left tackle. You might be surprised how he answered that one. We start, though, with all the turmoil that is going on in the country right now and how he is handling that with his team here in Nashville. It's the latest edition of the Helliepod presented by Viore. So this has been anything but a normal offseason.
Sure.
I mean, just all kinds of stuff going on, and you're dealing with all of it as the head coach of the organization. Obviously, first you have the pandemic, and the coronavirus basically shuts down in-person off-season training, and the Black Lives Matter movement, dealing with racial inequality, obviously a huge issue in this league, as it is every sports league in America. Which one, when you had to deal with it, was more of a difficult process? The pandemic, obviously longer, the Black Lives Matter movement more recent.
Well, we deal with them all. You know what I mean? We deal with all these distractions and the things that come up, and they're not distractions. They're things that we have to handle.
Sure.
So there's never going to be one that's more important than the other, because there's always going to be things that affect everybody differently. My job and John Robinson's job is to try to, do what's best for the football team. We have a job to do and a responsibility to the team to have us prepared. And, we'll continue to find out when that's going to be for training camp. We're going to continue to, explore and find ways to not only individually but collectively make positive change within our community. And so that will be intertwined with what we do as football players and coaches.
Who do you lean on? Do you have a leadership council?
I do. It's an unofficial one. I think that there are certain guys that I'll go to for certain things. But these veterans that have been with us for a couple years, I think we're starting to see things really through the same set of eyes. Kevin Byard has been great. Kenny Vaccaro has been great. Ben Jones, obviously, Ryan, Derek, and there's so many of them. Daquan, Rashawn Evans is starting to grow into a leader in his third year. Jeffrey Simmons is very wise beyond his years of being a second-year player. He's very mature. So, I know that there's plenty of guys that I can lean on. And then sometimes, as a leader, you have to just make decisions with what you feel is best and be decisive and be thought out.
In terms of the coronavirus, I always have the mentality, don't get upset over things you can't control, right? And everybody's in the same boat. I'm driving in today and listening to the radio, and Dr. Fauci has said that the only way he thinks the NFL can play next year is to operate in a bubble system like the NBA. This is the first time I'd heard that. And obviously that could change. That probably will change. How do you just have to wait? Like, how do you plan?
There's things that I can control and can't control, and the unknown is, is not knowing when we're going to be back, how are we going to operate, how are we going to keep people safe. We have a job to do, which is to put a winning product out there, to develop these guys, to make them better, but also use our platform to reach other people in a positive way. So until they tell us how we're going to do it, and we're going to sit here and wait and make suggestions or talk about it or have things planned out like we do for a lot of things that come up.
You heard Harbaugh's comments?
Mm-hmm.
Basically saying the protocols now are impossible.
Well, again, those were preliminary, and I think sometimes the NFL, likes to, they put out some memos and then see what the response is, and I think what it was it's hard to ask guys to social distance, and whatever they ask us to do in the building, we're going to do, and we'll use the indoor facility. We'll be as creative as we possibly can. Again, these are things that we don't know what we're going to have to do, but the whole idea of football is that you're going to go out there and there's going to be contact with players, and there's going to be physical contact, and there's collisions, and that's what I know that our coaches and players. The one thing we're experts at is we're experts at football. They're either experts at playing it, or we're experts or as good as we can be at coaching it. Right. And other than that, we have to continue to educate ourselves on everything outside of what we know and what we're really good at.
Is there a right number of preseason games with this situation?
Again, I have no idea to even go down that road and discuss what it is. If they give us 2 weeks to get the team ready, we'll use 2 weeks, and we'll use it the best way that we can. And if they give us 7 weeks, we'll use 7 weeks. That's always been our approach since I've been here. I think the team would tell you the same thing. Like, hey, whatever it is just tell me how long we're playing, how much we're playing for, and what the rules are, and that's what we'll do.
Does this change your approach to 3 quarterbacks? I mean, I would think every team carries 3 quarterbacks this year because you have your starter go down with coronavirus. You're in trouble.
Those are things with the roster size that we'll figure out as the NFL talks to us. I wish I could tell you I knew more than what I do right here today, but if they give us 60 guys on a roster, then we'll use 60 guys that we think are going to give us the best chance if a guy has to go down, and where you quarantine, what you do, and the more the players are around each other, we're going to have to deal with positive tests.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've seen that on the college level. Well, let's talk about the offseason. It was never slow before all this stuff. I think I heard you explain this on a Boston station. The whole FaceTime thing with your buddies Edelman and Brady, was that more laughable to you, or were you irritated that it became such a story?
It's always laughable. I'm in a unique position, having played somewhat recently,
right,
with guys that are still playing in the league, that either were teammates or friends or acquaintances. And obviously I didn't play with Jules, but I've become friends with Jules because Tom and hanging out and doing things in the off season. And so I think that's a unique situation. And there's a lot of conversations that I have with former players that, we joke and, meaning trying to carry the locker room on well past our years of being in the locker room together.
Right.
And I think that's what it was on a Saturday afternoon in the winter. And people made a big deal about it because of the circumstances surrounding it.
Well, just the whole thing was just a little ball busting. I mean, it was just classic Mike Vrabel busting chops.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Somebody will send a text, somebody sends this, somebody,
Right.
then he'll FaceTime or, that's what it was. And literally it was going back and forth getting snacks at the combine. Like, you could watch the players and then you got food back here and you just like make this migration from the snack table back to watching the combine workouts. Look up and see these two guys, and I was like, "Oh God, I gotta text them. I gotta say something." And then they FaceTime me back, and then we're talking, and then I walk out of the dome, and they're like, somebody's like, "Did you FaceTime Brady?" And I was like, "What? Why?" And they're like, "Yeah, somebody caught it. It's all." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me."
How did you ever go down the road with Brady? Did you guys discuss it?
John and I talk about every player that's available in the league that we feel like can help us. And, in the end, what was best for us was that, we bring Ryan back, and we were very interested in getting something done with him. And we did, and so there's a lot of free agents every year that we have conversations about. Tom's included in that group because he was one of those free agents. When his contract comes up and he's not franchised, then we have conversations about it. And then we, made a decision to get Ryan back.
When did you know that he was the guy?
Well, obviously, we knew when he was playing, that he was the guy, and that.
I just mean, was there a moment? Was there, your week 12? Was there like, okay, I think we got our guy, or did obviously you don't make that decision until the end of the year?
I don't think there's like one particular moment. I think that, watching him operate, I thought the Kansas City game here, I thought the Charger game here, coming in there right after, we made the move, seeing him be decisive and continue to lead and grow within our system, was something that was, really good to see.
I parachute in for the preseason. I do that. I go back, do my other games and NFL Network and all that stuff. And being here for the preseason, I thought this Marcus's job. There's no way. And you guys had said that all along, and obviously you make a change because you had to make a change. But I just wonder how difficult that process was. And it was week. You were 2-3?
2-4.
2-4?
2-4. We didn't score a point in Denver. We were just kind of stuck in a rut, and the whole team. We just needed to make a change.
Right.
And sometimes that always, the quarterbacks and head coaches usually go in the same sense. When things are good,
right,
they're really good. When things are bad, they're worse. So. Just wanted to do what was best for the football team that I felt like at that particular time would give us a chance to get things rolling from 2-4 and find a way to make a run and continue to coach the football team and play well in the second half of the season.
Just a spark, essentially.
That's really what I told the media at the time. I said, just looking for a spark, and whether guys play better because there's a new guy behind the center, I don't know that. But we're going to all have to play and coach better from this point on.
Kind of ironic that Marcus is in the identical situation now, or a similar situation, in Oakland. And who knows how that's going to go.
And he handled it well, and I think he admittedly would tell you that he probably learned something from it. And he continued to improve on the show team, and if given, he'll get another opportunity, and I'm sure he'll make the most of that opportunity.
One guy, there's not much. You're going into this really dead time, the only real dead time you guys have. And the one name out there, obviously still on the market, you're very familiar with, in Jadeveon Clowney, having coached
JD
in Houston. Surprised he's unsigned?
No. I just think that's where they're at, his agent's at, JD's at. When you ask for whatever they're asking for and you don't get it, then you got to wait till you get it, or something has to move. And not having the ability to bring players in is another, I think, hurdle with some of these guys that may have had off-season surgery or had some procedure done or something that they maybe just weren't 100%. You just needed to look at them, and you needed to have your doctors look at them, and that's, I think, part of it. I think that's part of the, hold up. And then, there's always a financial side of these things, these negotiations that sometimes slow things down.
If he's still around, you guys get closer to camp, he could be here, possible?
Sure. I mean, John and I are trying to do everything that we can to improve our team, and a player of his caliber would certainly probably do that. So we'll continue to talk, and I got a lot of faith in John, and I appreciate his willingness to allow me to have input into the roster and have some of these discussions with him.
I know you generally don't look back, so I'm only going to ask one real question about the playoff run last year.
Sure.
Because it was just borderline comical, but the bleeding the clock against the Patriots, you're taking the penalties, the loophole that Belichick kind of made famous. Did you glance across the field and see how pissed off he was when that was going on?
Stretch did. Stretch was upstairs. My man Stretch,
oh, yeah.
right? So Stretch does a fantastic job upstairs. He's committed to be in my eyes upstairs and helping me.
And Stretch is like your assistant.
He is. He is like my coordinator.
Okay.
Like it's not even fair to call him my assistant. Like, he's literally my coordinator.
And he has a line to you during the game?
He does.
Okay.
And he's knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable on the rules, situations that him and I discuss. He does a lot for us. And so, he's like, you got to see Bill. He's like, Bill's losing his mind. And I was like, I was like, it's all relative. I'm like, hey, listen, we got to finish this game off, and, we'll see what happens. And, it was only done 4 times last year. And it was like, it's got to be the right situation. I would have gone for it, but we lost like 5 yards on 3rd down. Like, I thought we'd run it and have 4th and 1, or we could kick it or go for it, and then we lose a bunch of yards on a 3rd down play. So, that's why we thought it was the right time to do that situation, but to execute it.
There's a little piece of you that said this is pretty fucking funny that this is happening to him, and it's me, and it's the same thing he did to somebody last year.
I mean, it's this is where we're at.
Right.
Like I played there for 8 years. To go back there and to be on the bus and go on the leave the hotel and have the family there, and Carter be on the bus on the way to the game, and then him to go out there on the field that he was out there when he was 6 or 7 years old, and me be able to coach in a playoff game back there. It was a really cool experience.
Almost like a full circle type experience.
Just spent a lot of time up there.
Let's talk playing days. I like to get into everybody's kind of rookie year and the adjustment to the league, and most of the guys that have done this podcast have been players. So you're the first coach we've done that we're going to get into playing days. 3rd round pick at Ohio State, 97. You get drafted by the Steelers, and that linebacking core was filthy. I mean, they just
loaded.
had grown ass.
Loaded.
Kirkland, Holmes, Lloyd, Gilden. You're talking about 3 of those guys combined for like 10 Pro Bowls, and I think it was Nolan Harrison and Henry at defensive end. What was that adjustment like? Certainly you had a high level of success at Ohio State, but what was that adjustment like to come into that program and try to fit in and try to get on the field?
It was hard. It was difficult. You come from a lot of success at Ohio State, not only team success but personal success, and you just kind of assume that it's going to be just like it was there, and you realize like it's not, and it's harder. These guys are grown men, like you said, and they was looking for a position, played a bunch of different positions early on, didn't really know which one was going to be.
Were you just bouncing back between end and linebacker?
Yeah, I was like, the first year I just played across the line, played across the defensive line.
Right.
And
how much did you weigh then?
so they told me to gain weight. So I was like fat ass, like 280. It was like, this isn't working. But I knew just enough, and I could play special teams. And then the next year, switched to outside linebacker. Didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And then by about the third year, it was like, okay, it looks like something, but I still had to make the team based on special teams, and still had good players coming in, or still had good players that were there. Greg Lloyd had transitioned on. Carlos Emmons stepped in. He left for free agency for the Giants. Gilden was there. Joey Porter came in. And about my last year there, my fourth year, it was like I was like the third starter, whatever that means. That's like the first backup. That's like the first runner-up.
At outside linebacker.
Yeah. And so I'd play a series on each side in first half and second half, and then that's kind of how it went. And had free agency come up. Remember, I had the Patriots offer me a signing bonus that was less than my rookie year deal, $225,000. I cashed in on a big free agency deal, but I earned a starting spot. There was an opportunity to start where Bill Cowher admittedly said, "Hey, Mike, I can't offer you what I can easily match this money, but what I can't do is I can't give you the opportunity that they're giving you." And that was Bill's way of saying, I think that if it was me, I'd go get the opportunity.
Then you had to respect that, right?
Sure, I've always said that to him now, and we laugh about it now.
When you got to Pittsburgh, that first training camp, was there anything that, whether it was rookie hazing, whether it was the first meeting, whether it was the first game?
In
Pittsburgh, is there something?
Greg Lloyd didn't talk to me for like 3 months. Like, I was scared to death of him. They drafted me. You go for the rookie mini camp, and you're over there. Then you go for the OTAs, and I mean, Dermontti Dawson couldn't have been nicer. Tom Zach was there. Cordell was nice. All these guys were great. Levon Kirkland was great. Greg didn't say a word to me. I was scared to death of him. So we go to Latrobe, and it's hot, humid. You're down in the valley, in between all these little mountains or hills or whatever, and it's humid. And toward the first day of pads, it's getting into a fight with a tight end, and we end up on the ground. I'm on top, and you're just acting like a moron. You're sitting there throwing punches, everything I tell our players not to do now. And so they break it up, and you're exhausted. You finish practice, you go in there. I'm just sitting in there, and this shadow comes across my locker, and I'm like, oh. And I look up, and it's Lloyd. It's Greg. And he's like, yeah, next time, in his deep voice, he's like, yeah, next time what you want to do is you want to take your hand up underneath his chin, underneath his face mask, and get him in the neck. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I was like laughing, and he's like, what? What are you? I said, Greg, you haven't talked to me in 3 months. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure like you weren't like some punk, and that you were going to be good enough for this defense. And I was like, if I'd have known all I needed to do was get into a fight for you to talk to me, I'd have fought somebody in April. We wouldn't have waited until July.
And then you're in.
That's it. And then, you kind of that's your welcome to the NFL.
It's not the first time I've heard it. It's amazing. Don't be stupid. Why would you punch somebody with a helmet on? But when you see that in camp from a young guy, there's a certain level of scrappiness there that I think even the coaches sometimes like, okay, there's some fire. He cares, right? Like he cares.
Correct.
It's tell him not to do it, but then you see it and you're like, all right.
Exactly. You just have to have these things in camp. Where guys, it's a violent sport. They're grown men, and it's guys are gonna have to make a name for themselves. And so, we talk about not fighting and all that other stuff, but it gets physical. It gets hard. It's competitive. It's a very competitive league, and guys see that, and that's how it goes.
So that's the rookie year. You get through your 4 years there. You leave for the Patriots because you have the opportunity to start. And they had some monsters on that defense too. I mean, you look at, I know you'll be in the Patriots Hall of Fame I'm sure in the next couple of years.
5 years, Danny. Danny, 5 years on the ballot.
It's coming. It's coming. But you look at those names. Seymour, McGinnis, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy, and then eventually, Bruschi and Harrison. I know they weren't there when you got there. But so you get there, and your goal's to start. And what was that first interaction with those guys like?
They had been there. There was 26 new free agents that year. And Bill had turned the team over. They were 5-11. So Willie was on the old guard, Teddy, Ty Law, Lawyer.
Was that 01?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wanted to make the best impression. I'd studied the entire playbook. They had sent it to me, and I had studied it for OTAs, and I knew what everybody was doing and this and that because I was going to make the impression. So we go up there, and we're practicing, and I'm making all these calls, Roy Lee, this, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And we go into practice, or we go into film, and they're like, Rob Ryan was our linebacker coach, and he was funnier than hell. And we are sitting there watching film, and this is in old Foxborough Stadium.
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, Vrabes, he's like, right here, you're slipping or falling, like make sure your feet are under you or whatever. And I was like, oh no, Rob, I said, Robbo, that's not me, that's so-and-so. And I hear from the back, I hear Willie go, woo, woo, like I was like selling somebody out, like I was like snitching. And I was like, oh. And I was like, point taken. So then after that, we were like, oh, stop snitching. But it was a good lesson that in my excitement to want to fit in,
right,
I was like snitching on some other guy. I was like, oh no, that's not me. That's Brew or somebody. And Willie was like, boo.
That is so Willie, dude. That is so.
And we always laugh about it now. But
Yeah.
at the time, I wanted to crawl under my little desk that we had at the stadium.
That's hilarious. Willie told me that you had somebody on staff there that would help you dig up dirt on your opponents. So you were fully armed with a verbal arsenal before the game, so you could just go at him the entire game.
So Matthew Chatham.
Yep.
Okay, he would do a tight end report, and tight end report included anybody along the front, little tidbits about this guy's past or what was going on, and he's like, well, if you want to use it, that's up to you. He would talk about their strengths and weaknesses as a player, but then he would also have these other little things that you could add in if you felt like, hey, we need to add a few things in to enhance your performance or maybe take away from what this guy's doing on the field. So Matt did the old tight end report, we called it.
Would you ask him to get a little extra,
We never had to ask. He always
had it.
Yeah, he always provided it. He always knew, he was ready and had all the ammo that we needed.
That defense, I know Willie, but there were so many alphas, I feel like, on that defense. Why did it fit so well together?
Well, I think we all just kind of figured everything out. There was guys that, Teddy, and Ted Johnson was there. And we drafted Seymour, Ty Warren, Ty Law. Lawyer moved on, and Rodney came in, and it just kind of worked. We all kind of understood what everybody else's job was and how we could make each other better. And again, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good, and it was good enough. And obviously, what the offense was doing, and it just kind of worked. I just remember, Rodney coming in his first year, and then Junior ended up coming in there, and but Rodney's first year he came in, we had maybe, I don't even think we had, pants on. We just had like uppers maybe, and it was the afternoon practice, and Falk ran a route out of the backfield, and he caught it, and Rodney lit him up. I mean, he didn't take, I don't think it was like a cheap shot, but I mean, he lit him up, and he dropped him, and Stephen Neal, offensive guard, comes over, guy who used to wrestle. He comes over, he's like, you can't hit him like that. And Rodney's like, man, you shut that. And he's like,
You can cuss on the podcast, man.
I know, but this is going to go out to the kids. My kids are going to hear this and all this other stuff, man. I try to be the best role model that I possibly
I think
could
your
be.
kids have heard it before. I think
you
they're fine.
You see my kids.
Yeah.
Big tattoo weekend at the Vrabel house.
Yeah.
I go away for 2 days, and they get. I come back when I get sleeves. They all got sleeves now.
Well, as long
half
as
a sleeves.
As long as your wife's not getting the sleeve, then I think you're
no,
okay.
She not. She, Lawan. I mean, they saddle up to Lawan. Next thing I know, they got tattoos, and so. But anyways, he's ripping this O lineman, and then Scarnecchia comes over, and Dante's like, hey, why don't you shut the hell up, Rodney?
The O-line coach.
The O-line
Yes.
coach. Grizzled, but he comes over now, and he wants to join. And meanwhile, me and Teddy are just standing here watching this.
Right.
And Scarnecchia says something to Rodney. And Rodney goes, I'll beat your ass too, old man. And me and Teddy look at each other. I said, I think Bill made a good signing with this guy. I said, holy shit. I think Bill made a good signing. And me and Teddy are just sitting there laughing. I'm like, he knocks Falk down. He wants to fight the offensive lineman, and he wants to fight the offensive line coach. And that was Rodney just played with his chip on his shoulder, and it was a great addition. It was I just always remember that story. Like Rodney was going to come in, and he was just going to prove himself to the team and to everybody on that defense.
And he did.
Absolutely, and it was perfect. But then we signed Kenny Vaccaro a couple years ago. And Kenny had been on the street. Kenny was out there on the street. And
that was when SIP went down.
Yep, SIP went down, and we signed Kenny. And Kenny came in, and, I think it was first day. It had already passed the acclimation period, and they were like, okay, here's your helmet, here are your shoulder pads. And there was a rookie receiver, 225 pounds or whatever, going to try to come in and crack him. And Kenny lit his ass up. And, I think everybody was like, damn, this guy's ready. This guy's here, and he's ready and committed to play football, and bring a presence. And he's been great, and being back there with Kevin, it's been fun to watch those guys the last 2 years, and hopefully we can get that here this year.
I'm always surprised by guys like Kenny who are on the street as long as they're on the street. I remember doing a Saints game and talking to Sean Payton, and obviously he's more of a kind of a box safety and can take your head off when he wants to, but there's still good players out there. Do you, throughout your career, has there ever been a guy that you're like, how is he still on the street?
It's just there gets to be sometimes a surplus of players, and guys teams make commitments to players, and guys end up out there a little longer than what you would think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that happens, but there always is. And then, you want to work with some young guys, but then you got some veterans out here that you think what they can do, but you want to work with some young guys, and then there always ends up being guys that are available later, and sometimes you add them to your roster later than what maybe people would have thought. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it goes. You make the draft, you have your moves in free agency, and your roster's set, and you want to kind of see what that looks like before you go and maybe add some of these veteran guys.
Have you seen a guy that's better at doing that than Belichick, and bringing a guy like yourself who didn't start a game in Pittsburgh? You played a lot, but you didn't start a game, and you immediately become a starter there and an impact player. He's done it with so many guys, I feel like, who were on Wes Welker's another example, right? He brings him up from Miami, immediate impact player.
I think that's just what you're trying to do. You're just trying to add pieces to your roster that you feel like are going to fit from a personality standpoint, with what you're trying to do with the culture of the football team. And then also, You know, at the end of the day, they got to be able to go out there and play, and they still have to be able to function. And you know, sometimes you make good moves, and sometimes you don't. You know, and that's something that Bill's done. But really, I'm focused, and I know that John's focused on what we're trying to do here, and not so much what they're trying to do in New England.
Well, yeah, I know that. You just went into coach mode right there with that question.
Well,
that was a bad question. That was a bad question.
It's so unique. You know, I mean, it's like people are like, "Are you disappointed that you're not in the Patriot Hall of Fame?" No, but I've gone.
But it'll be
up
cool
against
when you
good
get
people.
there.
Yeah, but like I'm not focused on like that part of my life. Like I gotta be focused on these guys in the locker room and these guys in our organization and these assistant coaches and everything else that's going on, and not worry about what the Patriots are doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was cool to have played up there, but I try not to reference my career. I don't want to see guys rolling their eyes about, you know, what I did as a player. They only care what I can teach them and help them with now. Me talking about whatever I did in New England or what we did then, I would be the same way. I mean, yeah, Bill used to joke about the Giants teams and, you know, these guys were better than you guys, but that was just Bill like joking. But that wasn't like Bill having played for the Giants. That was him saying like, Lawrence Taylor's better than you guys. Like, no shit, Lawrence Taylor's better than me and Willie or Rosie or anybody else that we had. Like, you know what I mean? But I just don't want to. I don't want the players to look and be like this guy's just up here telling us stories from the glory years. You know, how can this? What is he telling me now that's going to help us beat this team or whatever team we're playing?
Is that because in the back of your mind you're like, they know that. They know I got 3 Super Bowls. They don't need to hear it. It's not a teaching point that helps them today.
Right. That's not going to help them in this situation. That's not going to help them prepare for what they're doing now or what we think they're going to do in the red zone or how they're going to go tempo or, you know, what we think they're going to do out of different personnel groups or what look we may get defensively.
Quick break right now to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Vuori. Athletic leisure wear at its finest. I have been wearing this gear for upwards of 2 years now, and I absolutely love it. It is edgy, it's cool, and it is everything you need to work out, to hang out, to look great, to feel great. I love the material of their shirts. Soft, easy, maneuverable, looks awesome. They have great hoodies as well, and their joggers are just flying off the shelves right now because everybody working from home, so they're super comfortable. They also have what's called the Ponto Pant, or the Ponto Pant in English. Kind of like a jogger, but not really. And then their shorts are just off the chain. In my opinion, the best shorts on the market. I love the core short. I talk about them every week. They have a liner, so you just slip them on and they're good to go. VuoriClothing.com, VUORI clothing.com/Helliepod to get 20% off right now. I promise you it's worth it. VuoriClothing.com/Helliepod, VUORI clothing.com/Helliepod, 20% off now. Do it. I promise you won't be disappointed. Now back to the pod with Vrabel.
I know you've been asked this question before.
You come in.
Did you lock it? Hey, what's up, man? What's that tattoo sleeve look like? Oh, that's not a full sleeve. That's just down to the elbow.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's St. Michael. It's him standing on top of the devil. It's pretty sick.
Is you gonna do any more color, or is that it?
I don't know. I might do the rest. I kind of want a whole full sleeve, so start building off of it.
What did he say when you first got that tattoo sleeve?
He thought it was pretty cool, right? You like it?
Yeah, I do. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've wanted it for a while, so
Yeah.
I kind of knew.
We're still going here. We'll have a couple more minutes, and I'll give you Dad back. How much did you take from each guy you played for?
A lot. You know, I mean, going all the way back to Ohio State, you know, John Cooper, his relationship with the players, you know, Bill Cowher, Jim Haslett was the defense coordinator. He's our linebacker coach now. And, my first defensive line coach, John Mitchell. I walked in there, and John Mitchell was the first African-American All-American at the University of Alabama. And he coached D-line for the Steelers. And he's still part of that staff. And, he was a great man. And he was tough on you, but he cared, and he's a damn good football coach. And that was my experience to my first position coach, like the guy that was going to show me what this league was about. And I couldn't have had a better guy. And then obviously transitioning on to New England with Bill and everything there, but Romeo Crennel and Dean Pease having been there and coached me. Dante Scarnecchia and how he coached his position, and on and on and on. Bill O'Brien, I got to work for Urban Meyer, got to work with some great coaches at Ohio State, and then obviously Billy in Houston. So trying to take all those guys and take what you want and take what you feel like applies to you, and then put it in your own personality.
What was more challenging, the transition from playing to coaching at Ohio State, or to becoming a head coach?
No, I think that transition from playing to coaching was harder than this, this transition. Just because I think as a player, and you can't just say, hey, just do it like this. Like, what the hell does do it like this mean? Because as a player, you just kind of go out there and, a lot of times, and I've been through this with Wes Welker when he wanted to get into coaching, and now he's doing a fantastic job with the 49ers. But, when Wes came in when we were in Houston, it was like, hey, just do this. Like, Wes, they don't just know, like, what this is. And I didn't know that when I went to Ohio State to coach linebackers. And then, Urban came in and forced me to become a teacher and have a progression and sit there and be able to teach 18-year-old kids what their reads are, or what the technique is, or how you teach them. No different than Tyler going to BC and being 18 and coach. He can't just listen to Taylor Wan say, "Oh, here's how I'm going to pass that. Like, just do it like this." Well, no. Like, what is the technique? How do you teach it? What's the stance look like? What's the first two steps look like? What's the punch look like? Where's your eyes? All those things that you just take for granted as a player. So then that really forced me to develop and understand how I have to teach and how I need to explain, things and making the staff understand that this is how we want to do it as well.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you knew you were getting through to the kids? Because being able to do it and being able to teach it, obviously, two very different things.
Well, when you have direct teaching, it's easy because you're always asking questions. And we ask a ton of questions here. Our staff, I demand it, because there's two reasons why we ask questions. One is because if you know it and you answer it confidently, it gives your teammates and your coaches confidence in you that you know it.
Right.
So they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can speak it in front of 60 guys and tell us what the game plan is or tell us what his job is. I'm going to line up with this guy. The other reason is because if they don't know it, then we can fix it efficiently and quickly. We don't have to wait until the meeting's over or and he says, or he makes a mistake on the field. It's okay to say, I don't know. But if you ever get done with a meeting and you say, does anybody have any questions? I guarantee you 0 hands go up. Because one, they want to go get on their phone.
They want to get out of there.
Yeah. So, like, we don't say, or we try to steer clear
As Tyler's nodding his head, by the way.
We try to steer clear of saying, does anybody have any questions?
Right.
Because invariably, no one is going to ask a question. But if I say, hey, Dan, how many new free agents were there in 2001 when I went to the Patriots? And if you don't answer 26.
29 is what I was going to say.
26, right. Yeah. And if you don't say 26, then I got to go back and I got to say, hey, Danny, hey, Bill signed 26 new guys that year, completely turned the roster over because the record was 5-11 in 2000.
Right.
So now, okay, it's okay that maybe you didn't remember, but I got to go back and I got to reteach that, the fact that and I'm just using that because it came up earlier in
Sure.
our dialogue.
Yeah.
We could be going over 2 minutes in the team meeting room, and we could say, okay, the clock's running, or, what are we going to do here? And if guys answer, hey, we're going whatever this situation, boom, we got it. If they say, are we going to, we time out or clock? And nope, okay, slow down. Let's look at the situation, reset it, and go back through. So we try to make that direct teaching where we're always asking them questions.
Is it always the same guys getting it and the same guys not? Or is it different depending on the situation?
It's different depending on the guy. But there's a lot of guys in there in that team meeting room when I know when I've got them, when I see defensive guys answering offensive questions and offensive guys answering defensive questions that are like, they're shaking their head like, yep, Johnny's got it. Or, yep, and Logan Ryan was great. I would look at Logan and like, okay, if Logan knows this offensive question, we got to make sure that the offensive guys know. Because, Logan's been sitting there in the second row, dialed in, listening to these situations. He knows how we should play it on offense. And when the quarterback knows how Byard should answer defensively, we're all seeing it through the same set of eyes.
Right. All right, I'm gonna let you go, but first I want to do a quick 2-minute drill.
Okay?
All right.
How many timeouts do I have?
0.
Okay.
No timeouts. All right, 2-minute drill. Vrabes, you ready?
Let's go.
Derrick Henry reminds you of.
Ooh. Man, Eddie George, just because I played with Eddie. Eddie was a workhorse. But there's not a lot of guys that has his level of breakaway speed.
This is right now. First guy who's going to be out of the team meeting if the fire alarm goes off. The guy that's running out the door.
Lawan.
Really?
Save yourselves. Burn the ships. I'm out of here.
What about during your playing days?
It's got to be, those kickers. Ours would be Kern, Brinkley, Joseph, in all honesty, because they're right by the door.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
they're out of there.
That's an easy out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is worse, somebody who talks too much or somebody who doesn't talk enough? Not as a player, just in life.
Probably too much, because as a player, you can never talk enough out there.
Right.
You want a bunch of chatterboxes out there so everybody's on the same page. But in life, probably talks too much.
Okay. Sport you enjoy watching the most, other than football?
Baseball. When my son.
Your youngest son's playing baseball, sure. Best athlete you've played with?
Oh. Probably Terry Glenn.
Really? Interesting. What about against?
Oh, God, there's a ton of them. Pure athlete. Oh, my God. Man, there's been probably Tony Gonzalez.
Okay. He could do a little bit of everything. What was the last thing that you Googled? You can look at your phone.
No, it was flights. It was flights to go see my parent. Me and Carter are going to go see my parents after his baseball tournament.
In Ohio?
Yeah.
One teammate you'd want in your foxhole?
One teammate, just one?
Yeah.
Brew. We played next to each other, and that's, but there's a lot, man.
There's a lot on that team. There's a lot.
I can name a bunch of them.
Right.
But, Brew, we played next to each other, and, I remember lining up next to him after he came back from the stroke, and, I'm like, dude, your first tackle, this place is going to go bonkers.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did.
That's awesome. All right, getaway question here as Tyler is standing here. A couple years from now, he's on the board. He's on your draft board, okay? He's equally graded with another tackle. Dead even.
I'm going to go with the other tackle. I don't think I'm going to put Tyler through that.
As Tyler's nodding his head.
Tyler's like anybody but Dad.
That would be tough, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be tough.
It would be cool, but it would be, you listen to Doc
Jen would
Rivers.
probably call and be like, under no circumstances are you going to draft fucking Tyler.
What about if John's like, we got to take him? It's a hometown kid. Everybody loves him here.
I would probably defer to the other tackle.
Yeah.
For Tyler's sake.
That would be a tough one. Vrabes, I appreciate
We
it.
always joke a little with Lawan. Lawan's like, yeah, I don't know why I'm going to work with this guy. You're just going to replace me with him in a couple of years. And I'm like, he ain't coming to play for me.
I think that's the greatest gift you could possibly give to your kid, to have him hanging around the facility. And I don't know if Lawan's the best role model, but I'm just.
They
but
all
to be,
are.
you know what I mean?
They
To be able
all
to
are.
be around those guys, like what a life.
I mean, I've always said that. I was thankful that Billy in Houston and Mr. and Mrs. McNair allowed these guys to be at training camp, be at practice, to hang out with these guys, because those are they're going to learn and take more from them than they're going to take from me as their dad. And so when they see these guys that are great, husbands and fathers and teammates, like that's the best thing I can teach them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Vrabes, I appreciate it, bro.
A lot of fun, man.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was great.